From our studios here in Freetown, good morning and welcome to yet another edition of the Star Good Morning Show, our breakfast magazine program that brings you news and interviews and happenings across the country. I am your presenter, Leonora Jawara, and our inspirational quote for today, actually our African proverb, it says, "It is not changing into a lion that is hard, it is getting the tail of a lion." And the stories we shall be looking in the program today, an aspiring candidates for the presidency of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, SLAJ, Mustafa Sise, has unveiled his election poster informing his pathway to his aspiration. The Natural Water Resources Management Agency, in collaboration with the government of Sierra Leone and its partners, on Tuesday, 2nd July 2019, launched the National Water Resources Management Agency's 5-year strategic plan. And as part of efforts in complementing the Transform Freetown plan, the Freetown City Council's Metropolitan Police has cleaned the Circular Road Cemetery. These stories and more coming up shortly. And with me in the studio is a member of the New Life Community Development Organization, Abdul Rahman Sise. He shall be talking to us about their project titled Crime Prevention to Empowerment. Good morning, Abdul Rahman.
Good morning, Leonora.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Good morning. Yes.
Also with me in the studio, actually, somebody from the Water Resources Management Agency, and we shall be talking to us more about their projects. Good morning. Nice to have you here.
Good morning, Madam Jawara.
All right. I shall be back with you shortly. Well, let's take a message from our sponsors.
Simcopo allow old and young to make deposits and withdraw cash from their account at any time and anywhere. With Rokel Commercial Bank Simcopo, you can send and receive money at any place and any time. Rokel Commercial Bank don't make life better for we all.
Now let's begin the show with our first news item. The National Water Resources Management Agency, in collaboration with the government of Sierra Leone and its partners, on Tuesday, 2nd July 2019, launched the National Water Resources Management Agency's 5-year strategic plan. Let's have more in this report.
Giving an overview of the 5-year strategic plan, the Director General Water Resources Management Agency, Junisa Patrick Bangale, said the agency started operating in 2019 this year with the mandate to regulate effective management resources through innovative leadership to ensure the provision of basic services.
What is the purpose of the Strategic Development Plan or the SDP? One is to give us a clear roadmap as to how we want to achieve our vision. 2 is to provide sustainable solutions for the efficient management and regulation of the country's water resources. We are saying sustainable solutions because sustainability does not only include the present generation. It also goes further to cater for later generation. So that's why we believe that this SDP will provide those sustainable solutions in the management of our country's resources in this country. Now, it is our purpose, our mandate to regulate them. Otherwise, as in the past, everybody will do what they like, and the depletion of our water resources will continue. We don't want that. Now, the SDP will also show transparent and accountable framework, how we want to assess the water, how we want to allocate the water, how we want to conserve it, how we want to develop the water, and how we also want to manage and regulate these water resources.
Representing the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, the WASH specialist Mohamed Koji said they have put in place policies, regulatory and fundamental principles to ensure the agency functions adequately.
For us as UNICEF, as we all know, the human right to water and sanitation is at the core of UNICEF mandate for the children and women for whom we are working. And the director have made some salient issues that has made the platform for the agency to move forward. In his presentation and in the 5-year plan, we have the establishment of an enabling environment. If we all saw what he presented, there have been in place policies, regulatories, and all those fundamental principles to enable the functionality of the agency. That has been the platform which has given rise to the establishment of the agency. I'm sure that is a big plus to the Ministry of Water Resources. Bravo to the Honorable Minister and all those that have formed that part of that platform.
The Ministry of Water Resources, Dr. Jonathan Tembe, while giving the keynote address, said the National Water Resources Management Agency Strategic Plan 2019 to 2023 will serve as a roadmap for the agency to carry out its mandate and functions for the next 5 years.
So with these goals and our strategic goals of sustainable development, SDGs, we are all aiming to achieve, and want also to support this agency, both government and agencies, our partners, to make it a reality. It was a piece of paper that was signed by Parliament that we made in our office, but the new direction government with our proactive president has pushed this through, appointed the Director General and directors, and we are shortly to appoint or recruit over 50 members of staff to carry out this mandate. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much, and I want to successfully launch the strategic National Water Resource Management Agency 5-year strategic development plan.
For Star TV News in Freetown, I am Adma Samai reporting.
Many thanks to Admaya Samai for compiling that report. It's 8 minutes gone past 9, and let me come to my studio guest. First is Abubakar Iskandri Conte Esquire, Director of Legal Regulations and Outreach. Welcome again. Good morning.
Thank you so much, Madam Chara.
Yeah. Before we talk about this strategic plan, let's talk about the National Water Resources Management Agency. Give us a background for the establishment of it. What is the purpose for its establishment?
Thank you so much, Madam Jara, for hosting me this morning. The National Water Resources Management Agency was established in 2017 with the sole purpose of regulating and managing the water resources, natural water resources of the country. And we must not forget that these natural resources is owned by the government, and therefore the government has the sole mandate to manage it. Over time, we have had situations of scarcity because of lack of management in the country. We have had over time institutions like Salwako and Guma Valley, which are different from our functions. They are particularly responsible for supplying water to the people, which is different from this institution's mandate, which is managing the water resources. This is done because we intend to, in the future, prevent situations that will amount to scarcity of water, which the country will not be able to manage. You know, it is responsible further to bring all Sierra Leoneans on board, concerned stakeholders, to make sure we all come together to manage this water. How do we manage this water? The institution is directed to levy fees on water users for what we call permit. And that permit, one will apply for it to the institution for, let me say, for the institution for a certain period and based on the purpose for which you want to use it, you know. And in the application, there are conditions attached when you apply for the permit. And it is the institution that is given the mandate, sole mandate by the government to grant this permit to water users. We also, by extension, regulate borehole drillers and dam safety regulations. The institution will have in future design what we call regulations, which are made provision for under Section 36 of the National Water Resources Act number 5 of 2017. This institution, Madam Jawara, will tell you, is the best, I will say, this country has ever paid attention to. Because to my mind, water resources is a human right. And if neglected, and if water users are allowed to tap this water without regulations, without being told how to do it, we will find out that at the end of the day, the water will be polluted, or the quantity that will be needed for use will not be sufficient for people to use, which at the end of the day will spring back to the government, whose sole responsibility is to provide for the welfare of its citizens. And because this commodity is one that I would call the most important product to life, because life itself will not survive without water, it requires effective management, and one of the reasons why this institution is established.
So the people that you bill, is it domestic, or is it companies like water companies?
Well, the institution is focused on regulating everybody that uses water. However, the nature of the regulation goes, like I said, to issuing permits. But that does not go to domestic users. There is an exemption to domestic users. However, if one abstracts water by mechanical means, it behoves the person to register that mechanical means of abstracting water with the institution. Because the institution itself requires data which shall be used in the future for planning, or researchers will use it in the future for their different work. So in the essence, it is not everybody that should pay the permit fees. The domestic users are exempted, particularly those who abstract water manually.
So now the institution, like you said, is responsible for managing and regulating our water resources. So far, since its establishment, how much has been achieved? What has been done so far?
Well, thank you, Madam Jarawa. As I have made very, very clear, this institution is brand new. It's a new kid on the block, as my Director General will always say. This institution was established in 2017, but started operation in February of 2019. So far, what we've been able to do is firstly to lay the foundation of our operations. The President appointed the Director General of the agency in 2018 December, and 3 other directors, myself and 2 other directors, were appointed in February of 2019. When we came, we thought that notwithstanding the difficulties, the challenges, because funding is one of the greatest challenges that we are faced with now, we have gone to the extent of designing the pathway for the future of the institution, particularly the strategic plan that you just saw on TV. It was launched on the 2nd day of July 2019 by the Minister of Water Resources. That strategic plan designs the pathway, the activities that the institution intends to embark on in the not distant future. We have the quick wins targets, and we have those that will not be achieved in the shortest distant future. They are all embedded in that strategic plan.
We shall talk about the strategic plan shortly, but first, do you take stock of the state of our water resources?
Pardon me?
Do you assess the state of our water resources?
Yes, Madam Jara, that is part of the mandate of the institution. In fact, if you have gone through the strategic plan, there is a goal which directs at assessment and monitoring. Because you will not be able, firstly, to manage water if you don't assess the quantity of water that you have already. And you monitor that this water is is effectively utilized. So there is a provision, and it forms part of the function of the institution.
So based on your findings as of now, what is the state of our water resources?
Well, as it stands, there is no laid down effective record to reach at for now. But the institution intends to establish a department for keeping records. So, because this institution is new, as it stands, there are no established records to lay hands on so as to determine the way forward. But we have come, more the reason why we have come, to make sure we assess the water that we have for the year and how that water will be managed effectively for the use and consumption of the users.
Regulating and enforcement of laws, which is under your mandate, how do you go about it?
The institution, like you have mentioned, has a department known as the Regulations Department. The Act makes provision for regulations. In other words, regulations directs how the water is regulated. It gives indications as to how the users, what the users are expected to do, as well as the institution itself. In the regulation, you have the process by which water users will come and apply for permits, and they grant them permits. And it is obvious that even though people are granted permits, there is likelihood that these people will default as against the conditions attached to this permit. So the institution provides for compliance officers who go on sites and try to encourage, firstly, those who have not acquired permits, and by extension also monitor whether those who have acquired permits go or comply with the conditions attached to those permits. And in circumstances where those who have been granted permits do not comply to the conditions attached, the institution has a sole mandate to withdraw those permits, and as well has a mandate to prosecute in the circumstance where the non-compliance is so grave that it causes effect on the environment. The institution has permit to prosecute those matters in court, and people are fined for that.
So what is the compliance rates? Are people complying?
Well, as it stands, we have not had situations of non-compliance yet. We have established a provision informing those water users to come and register with us. As it stands, we have had several water users who have come to the agency and obtained the application forms. Some have registered, but we have not started issuance of permits as yet because we have just started operations. But in due course and in a not too distant future, that will take effect.
So those people like that dug water wells in their compounds, are they also to take permits from you?
Well, not necessarily. Those who have water wells in their compounds, it's based on the type of water well that you have in your compound. If it is one which is open to abstracting water manually, it does not require registration with the institution.
Okay.
But if it's one that opens room for abstracting water mechanically, it behoves that person to come and register with the institution, because the institution requires data, which goes to water assessment, as you just mentioned not too long ago. It goes to water assessment. So those who as well use water for commercial purposes, those mining institutions, those manufacturing institutions, those agricultural institutions or organizations, are all required to obtain permit from the institution, because it is only the institution that has the mandate, the sole mandate, let me put it that way, to issue out permits. And because this is an authority that we got from the president and the government, better put, the government, because the government has, by the act itself, directs that the government is the owner of the water resources of the country. And if anybody, any private individual wants to use this water, that person is required to apply for permit. And if not granted, that person does not have the right to use the water resources of the country.
Okay, quickly before I come to my other guest, So far since your establishment, what are some of your interventions and approaches that you've put together in regulating and managing our water resources?
Well, like I've always mentioned since the start of the program, this is a new institution. We are focused now at building the institution itself. We have been, four of us are currently working as employees of the institution. You know, we have not gone far yet, but we are laying the foundation and determining the path to follow in the future. You understand? So in the essence, what I'm trying to say clearly is, we even the regulation which we just mentioned is part of our target of the year, for the year. You know, it's part of the strategic plan that we should draft and develop regulations which will guide our path, which will guide the water users as what to do and how they will relate themselves to the institution. So as it stands now, we have not even developed regulations yet.
Okay, so you're just starting.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll be back with you shortly. He is Abubakar Iskanri Konte Esquire, Director of Legal Regulations and Outreach. With me also in the studio is the Director of the New Life Community Development, Abdurrahman Sise. Is here to talk to us about the launch of a project titled Crime Prevention to Empowerment. Good morning, Mr. Sise.
Yeah, good morning, Papa.
All right. First, let's have a background of the organization. What is the organization all about?
Of course, a New Life Community Development Organization and was formed and registered by members of the community in 2017. And the basic purpose of this organization is to foster unity, capacity building, and provide social justice for community members within our community and the nation as a whole.
Okay. So far, what have you been doing?
Of course, for the past years, we'll be engaging in community sensitization with regards HIV and AIDS. We've also conducted community stakeholders sensitization. We've trained youth and stakeholders within our communities.
Okay. Within your community, what are some of the issues that are most pressing that you think you can be able to sensitize members of your community?
Of course, basically with regards to social problem, because if you look at the nation as a whole, we are faced with a lot of social issues. So basically our focus is to how to address the social issue within our community and the nation as a whole.
So what are some of the advice you give to people? What are some of the ways you think they can address some of those challenges they face?
Basically, what we are doing is for us to take responsibility and engage community members, stakeholders, for us to know that the community belongs to us, and it is our responsibility of taking care of our communities. For us to be patriotic and love ourselves and then put resources together. We should not always focus on government to say that government is going to provide everything for us. But as a community, if we are together, we can able to put our meager resources together and see how best we push our community forward.
You talk about sensitization of HIV and AIDS. How do you go about that?
Of course, we have members within the communities, and we engage more especially the youth, because they are the active with regards sex. So we engage them and tell them the don'ts and the do's with regards HIV, how to prevent themselves.
Do you also like tell them about family planning, how to space their babies, how to have babies when they can, and how they can plan for their babies?
Of course, family planning too is part of our sensitization program, more especially the female, the teenagers, because they are graduating to adulthood, and then we engage them with regards how they should prepare themselves, with regards taking responsibility of their families and planning themselves for them to get educated before having going into marital status.
Now let's talk about your project, the Crime Prevention to Empowerment. What is the rationale for that?
Of course, Crime Prevention to Empowerment was designed by members of the organization, and the rationale for that is to reduce the crime rates that is occurring in the country, especially Freetown. And then we've thought it that the preventive measure is more better than before we sit down and see the crime occur. So as an organization, we thought it fit that for us to come up with an initiative as to how to prevent the crime before it occurs or happens.
Okay. Which communities are you targeting?
Of course, for now we are targeting 4 communities, and Mafengbe, the Bungaton, and Waska, Crabton, Lumley, and then the New Life community.
Now, most of these communities, crime rate is not new. It's everyday life for some of the youths. How do you hope to target these youths? How do you hope to change them?
Of course, basically, the target group for this particular project, we are targeting 4 sets of groups, and that is the cliques, the ghetto guys, the commercial sex workers, and also the prisoners. And we know that those are the people that are vulnerable in terms of committing crime. So that is why we are targeting them. We are going to the ghettos, we are going to the clique zones. Of course, it is rather unfortunate that I should have shown some videos with regards to what we've done so far. We just organized a crime prevention competition in those 4 communities.
But is it easy getting to these people? Because most times, especially those in the ghetto, they are hard to reach people. Is it easy to get to them?
Yeah, well, that is very, very difficult. It's very difficult, and that comes in with regards to the challenges that we are getting as an organization to reach to those people, to sensitize them, talk to them. At times when you go there, it is very difficult for you to get audience with them. But we are pushing, and then we are getting some of them. We have in our database something like 500 cliques, ghetto guys, and the commercial sex workers.
So what are some of the stories that they give you for going into crime?
Of course, most of them, if you listen to them, they will tell you that the influential people, the politicians, and that is why the project is looking at not only those that are committing the crime, we're also trying to sensitize the stakeholders within the community, those that we see they are influential in community. At times, the youth themselves, they are not the one that want to go into crime, but they have people that influence them to go into those crimes. So that is why we are engaging both the youth and the clique, the ghetto guys, and the influential people like the politicians, those people that you see that we know that they can able to influence youth in going to crime.
Okay, continue to stay with me, Abdurrahman. Let me come again to Iskandari. Let's talk about your recently launched project. What is the purpose of that strategic plan?
It is said that failure to plan is planning to fail. Therefore, we thought it fit that it is but necessary that we design activities that we intend to achieve. And having a list of activities that you intend to achieve in the future will help you work towards those activities effectively. So, in essence, what I'm trying to say is, this is a new institution. We have come and we have decided to work effectively. Firstly, this institution being a new one does not have even an office as it stands. And it behoves us to design projects that will go towards that. And that project is part of the strategic plan, that we secure an office space and design regulations, because the Act requires that we operate with regulations. As you will know, that many institutions do not have regulations that guide them. Many institutions operate only with the Act. But we have come and we want to follow the due process, which is designing regulations that will guide our activities as far as regulating the water resources. In the strategic plan as well, there is a need that we collaborate with neighboring countries to manage the trans-boundary waters, because when we say the water resources of Sierra Leone, it involves inland water as well as coastal waters. So our waters extend even within the coast of Sierra Leone, which is bounded with Liberia on this side and the other side with Guinea. So if you see, we are downstream users. water comes through the Rokel, the Moa from Guinea. We are downstream users. And the Mano River Union, the Mano River from Liberia. So you can see that there are waters that we both share. So we wish to establish with them collaborations so that we could form part of the management of these waters so that we could not be affected because we are downstream users. You understand? As well, we have decided to recruit personnel for the institution. And in so doing, the people that you have to recruit will need capacity building. And that forms part of the strategic plan. You know, and as by extension as well, it is part of our mandate in the strategic plan, which we want to achieve as a goal, that over time we have seen water-related disasters in Sierra Leone. So we have targeted that in the future, within the next 5 years, we want to make sure we design a system that will determine the likelihood of a water-related disaster, which will prevent the effect on the citizens. So, because if we have knowledge of a disaster that will want to happen, and we inform the public, it will help largely to prevent the effect of this disaster. So that forms part of it. And like you rightly said, the issue of assessment and monitoring. We, as an institution, will have to serve as a source of information as far as water issues are concerned in the country. We will have to serve in that capacity. So until we assess the waters that we have and we monitor the users of this water, we will not be able to manage water effectively. And by so doing, we will have records which even the government will have to use in the future for planning. Because you will only be able to know how much you will give based on your knowledge of how much you have. So that is part of the strategic plan as well. And the strategic plan, Madam Jawara, also contains the issue of, let me brief reference. It also contains the issue of the goal 2, fantastic. It also contains the issue of protected watersheds and catchment areas. That is key. Because in recent times, we realize that catchment areas have been depleted based on urbanization or the human activities, I would put it. And it is our responsibility. And we have come to design a system that will largely try to prevent the degradation of these catchment areas or watersheds.
Most of these areas, they've built houses and stuff there. Most of these catchment areas.
Wonderful. That is known. We're not in doubt as to that. But we have come to make sure, in collaboration with other institutions, largely like NPAA and EPA in this respect, we collaborate with them to make sure those, and the Ministry of Lands as well, will make sure that those people who have built around those catchment areas, who have depleted these catchment areas, because much of the depletion comes from the fact that people have built very close to these areas, and these areas are exposed to human activities, will make sure we do robust public awareness. And by extension, we go to these places and we make sure we develop the already depleted catchment, because there are some which are already dried up. We'll make sure if there is need for replanting of trees, we'll do so, or we'll liaise as well with the meteorological the climate or meteorological station, which is responsible for determining the effect of human activities on the climate. And if you look at them, there is a whole relationship between and among these institutions. So therefore, we'll have to collaborate with them. But the issue of catchment areas, protection of catchment area is key. We'll have to design a system to ensure that these catchment areas and watershed areas are protected. Because the effect of the climate that we see now largely is from the issue of deforestation. People deforest these areas that are very close to watershed and catchment areas. And we'll make sure with our coming on the stage, we'll make sure in the future this is reduced, this is mitigated. And there is one thing I did not emphasize. People will think that this institution has been designed to come and raise funds for the government. I would say the essential purpose why the government decides to enforce this institution is the social equitable effect which it has. That is to say, it reduces or mitigates the odds that water users do to the resources. That is the purpose. Receiving fees is just coincident, or it's just incidental. I will put it. It's just incidental, but it is not the reason for the establishment of the institution to raise funds. No, that is just incidental because that is the means of regulation, but not a purpose in itself.
So all this that you've said, they're very good plans, but let's look at the implementation aspect of it. How do you intend to go about it as an organization?
I will emphasize, Madam Jawara, at this stage, that these plans that we've designed are huge. I will submit. However, they are achievable. What I will say at this stage is, if you visited our launch, we emphatically expressed the financial consideration that is attached to these plans, which was pronounced as very close to $49 million. We know that is huge, and as well the plan for the money attached is as well huge. But I will tell you at this stage, Madam Jawara, that these are achievable plans. If only we have the support of the public, and we also at this stage encourage our donor partners to come and assist us in this. And I'll find favor at this stage as well to acknowledge the contributions of UNICEF, because much of what we do at this stage, from the beginning to now, we throw credit to UNICEF and MCCU, the Millennium Challenge Coordinating Unit, which is there to contribute to development activities in the country. You know, we say so much respect to them. They have contributed a lot to our activities, and we encourage them to continue because we will not disappoint them. We'll make sure our activities are well implemented.
Okay, continue to stay with me, Iskandre. Let's go in quickly for another news item. Now, an aspiring candidate for the presidency of Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, SLAJ, Mustafa Sise, has unveiled his election poster informing his pathway to his aspiration at the Harry Asane Hall, SLAJ headquarters in Freetown. Let's have more in this report.
Basically, I have served SLAJ for over 20 years, and I've been fortunate to be the only executive member that has served 3 presidents, meaning that I have more experience at the Secretariat in SLAJ than any other Secretary General before or any other executive member. And apart from that, I have always been part of the planning committee for our biennial congresses, triennial meetings, and also our annual general meetings, which means I'm also familiar with the rules and procedures relating to SLAJ and SLAJ activities. The important thing about SLAJ is the issue of securing program support and institutional support. And they know that I'm very good at developing project proposals for SLAJ. You know, it is as a result that we even have this hall in which we are conducting this interview, and even the 8-room office space was secured while I was here as Secretary General. And since then, the only major development that was taking place there is renovation. So when I come back, definitely I will ensure that we strengthen the Secretariat more, we equip it more, and we establish regional offices where we left regional offices that are no longer exist. That I have the capacity, I have the capability, and they know that I can deliver. You know, even the Secretary General testified to you. The Secretary General told you that when he was addressing everyone here, did indicate that no one knows the SLAJ history more than Mustafa. And even the editors in SLAJ called me the editors because I review their headlines.
A clear demonstration of what we're talking about, that we should be together, we should make these elections very peaceful, very civil, not only from us, the candidates, but also you, the supporters, let the debate be healthy and on issues and not personalities, so that we tell the public that we are a civil organization and that the national politics will take a lead from us, as we would like to see national presidential candidates having this kind of friendship, and cooperation and understanding. So it's a pleasure and it's a privilege for me to formally launch and unveil the SLAD Presidential Election 2019 Vote Mustafa MKCC poster. And with this, I want to wish you well.
Well, what I really tell SLAD members is to vote for people who are competent, people who have demonstrated commitment to SLAD, people who have dedicated themselves to SLAD. You know, instead of just telling people vote for me, because if you tell somebody to vote for you, you want to tell that individual vote for me because I'm your brother, I'm your tribesman, or we came from the same region, or we attended the same school. But just tell them to vote for people who they believe are more competent and capacitated to administer the association. Because this is a professional body, and we are fortunate to have 100% literate membership. I have been at the Secretariat for 6 years when I was Secretary General of SLAD, and on no occasion did I ever issue out any press statement or public statement that was questioned by colleague journalists. Imagine you have to think on behalf of 600 people. That is not an easy task. So if I can go through that, there is nothing that I cannot go through in relation to challenges that will be confronting our association.
9:42 is the time from our studio clock. You're still watching us live here on Star TV channel 21. And back to Abdul Rahman Sise, Director of the New Life Community Development. Now, your project, the crime prevention to empowerment, do you work with the police? Do you work in collaboration with the legal aid to see that you actualize what you do?
Yeah, of course. We've written a letter to the Sierra Leone Police and Legal Aid Board and ONS and even the Internal Affairs Ministries, because we know that they are in charge of a crime situation in the country. So like we cannot undertake such project without partnering with them. So like we've written letters to them, and like yesterday I was with Mr. Languba Kelly, the ONS office, and then he's supposed to be part of the launching of the project.
Okay. So one might want to know, how do you intend to go about this crime prevention?
Basically, it's all about engagement, because what we've seen is that the mindset, most of those youth that are involved in those crimes, it is because of a lack of job, or some of them are being lack of social amenities. So what we are doing as an organization, we engage them. Those that we know they are supposed to be in the minimum power programs, we are also partnering with institutions like the YWCA for the female, like other institutions that are into these technical programs, that we advocate for those that want to go into, let's say, tailoring, hairdressing, catering, and for the male, those that want to go into carpentry, the block laying. So at the end of the day, we engage them to see that how we can change their mindset from a crime zone to a developmental programs. So that is how we engage them.
What about the community leaders? Do you like also engage them?
Of course, as I said earlier, and it is a two-way approach that we are taking. We are looking at both the youth and the community. And if you look at Sierra Leone as a whole, when you talk about the clique, the ghettos, and the commercial sex workers, these are people that are marginalized in communities. They are not accepted. So what we are doing, we are also engaging the stakeholders within the community. For the fact that we are engaging those youth, when they come back, you have to accept them within the communities, because that is how we can be able to transform their lives. But if we say we've engaged, there are 10 ghettos guys and 10 cliques, and I don't know, when they come back, the community is shying away from them. It will be difficult for them to adapt to the community.
Yeah, because reconciling them with their people is very important.
Yeah.
Most times they've committed crimes,
Yeah.
of which the community people know about.
Yeah.
So you need to like sensitize the people on how to forgive them.
Of course.
And accept them back.
Of course, as I said earlier, that is what we are doing. We are engaging both the community stakeholders and then also engaging those that are in the crime. So that's a two-way approach that we are doing, because we know that at the end of the day, they are coming back into the community. They are our brothers, they are our sisters. They have nowhere to go. We are all Sierra Leoneans. So what we are doing, engaging them and also engaging the community, so that at the end of the day, if they return back to the community, let them accept them.
Okay. So, do you like also create like a patrol watch in helping the police? Because prevention of crime also, you need to be like a watchdog.
Of course, and then what we are doing, the good side of it, all those that we are engaging now, we have people that are taking part in watching their communities, like you talk of the Mafengbe, the Bungaton, and then the Krapton, Waska, and the New Life community. What we are doing, out of any group, we have 5 community champions preventions. They are responsible for engaging their colleagues that are involved into the crime. So they will talk to them better than us. So that is what we are doing, and they know the crime spots. So we are training them with regards how to engage, because it's all about engagement. There are times using force, yes, it's good, but we think that engaging them to change their mindset would be the best option that will prevent the crime.
So relatively, these communities that you work with, how can you describe the crime rates in these communities?
Of course, initially the crime rate was high, but for now we are seeing a little bit of improvement with regards to our interventions. And then, as I said earlier, we organized a crime prevention and football gala. That is 2 weeks back. That when we went to the Lumley police for them to give us a police clearance, they were like, will you be able to control those guys? Because when you talk about the clique and the get-to guys, wherever they are, it is always commotion. So they were about not to give us the clear, but we assured them that that league is going to be okay and all right. And then it went well and everything was successful.
Do you also create ways, because most of these guys, they take drugs, and rehabilitating them, bringing them back to the community, they have to stop the use of drugs, which is a cause for them to commit crime.
Of course, that is that is one of our sensitization message. The drugs that they take lead them to commit crime. So the first thing we tell them is to stop taking those drugs. Stop taking those drugs, that you have a sense of mind that will control you and tell you what to do that is right for you.
Okay. When we come back, we shall talk about the launch of your project. Let me come to Iskandar again. Now, earlier you talked about challenges that your agency is facing. What are some of these pressing challenges?
Well, it's clear that the top on the list is one of finance. You know, we are at this stage as a new organization. We are dependent on support from donors, you know, from our donor partners. As we speak, this institution and the launch of the strategic plan itself was sponsored by UNICEF. You know, the institution is new, and we know the stage where the country now is. You know, economically, the country is not viable now, although the government is trying to recover from the odds of the past. However, we are encouraging development partners to come and help us with the aspect of the finance. As we speak, we are constrained with office. We do not have even office where as we speak now. We are residing at Tower Hill Water Directorate. 4 directors using 2 offices. Myself and the Director General, we are sharing 1 office. You can imagine the constraints, you know, and the workload is.
I'm sorry to cut you. This institution, is it under government? Is it under which ministry?
The institution, it is called a National Water Resources Management Agency, which means it is a government-based institution. It is under the Ministry of Water Resources. And therefore, the Ministry of Water Resources is an umbrella ministry that governs our activities. We relate with the Ministry of Water Resources closely in our activities. In fact, that was one of the reasons why you saw the Minister of Water Resources declaring the launch of the strategic plan. So we are in close tie.
So are you not having enough support from government?
Well, we're having support from government, but we need much more than what we are having. You know, we encourage the government as well to put us. Of course, we are at we are on the priority list of the government, because water business is one that requires urgent attention. Because over the years we have had water stress situations where people, in fact, nowadays you can see in the dries you will find children below the age of, even I can say, minors in the night going in search of water. But that is unbearable. The government has seen more the reason why the government has decided to develop this institution so that water will be managed properly and will be socially and equitably distributed.
Let's look at some of the strategies to avoid wastage and allocation of water. Is it under your purview? Do you also, is it embedded within your mandates?
Well, not specifically as you have put it, not specifically. But what we will say is we encourage every user of water to be mindful of the precious nature of the commodity. Because, but however, it is Guma Valley's responsibility, and Salwako, because they are service providers. They are responsible for pipe connections for the supply of water, and not our institution. But as citizens as well, I'm now speaking from the standpoint of a citizen, we owe a duty, if we see damage to pipes, to communicate to Guma Valley about those damages. You know, if you see any damage on any pipe, you report to Guma Valley or Salwako, as the case may be, you know, to help aid the situation, because they will not be present at all times in those places where their pipes will be damaged. So it behoves us as citizens to report that. But that is not under our purview as an agency. Our responsibility is to make sure the available water is managed effectively, so that at the end of the day, the water users will be able to use the water available effectively, and they'll be able to use the water available without stress.
What about conserving water? What advice would you give?
It is our responsibility. It's part of our responsibility to conserve water. It's part of our responsibility to conserve water as well. The issue of water catchment relates to water conservation. You know, it's part of our duty. So, but the point of issue here is we are encouraging every citizen, because this is a campaign that goes for every citizen. They say water for all, and therefore, because everyone uses water, we require everyone's participation in the management of this water, as that is the condition of the integrated water resource management. It requires every stakeholder, every individual that uses water to be mindful, to firstly respect the standard of the importance of water. Water is a natural resource, and therefore, to me, it is even more important than the mineral resources that people go after. Because without water, one cannot live. However, one can live without diamond, gold, or the rest. So it's high time we let me in fact emphasize this. In the launch of the strategic plan, what I picked out outstandingly was the advice by the Deputy Minister of Finance. I picked that out outstandingly, that the education for water to be made an economic product must be part of civic education. Because this has been a situation which was free of charge. People have been using water free of charge, on a free of charge basis, without paying for it. For us to come now and say they should pay for the water they use, it will be difficult. However, the government and everyone should see it as a civic right to make sure that the water is managed effectively.
All right, let me round up with you quickly. What will be your closing note? What message would you like to pass on?
I will firstly want to encourage everyone that the fight we are after now is the government's initiation. It's a government initiative, rather I should put it, the government initiative. However, this initiative will not succeed if stakeholders and communities do not come on board. And I want to, at this stage as well, acknowledge the participation of the Fourth Estate, the media houses. They have contributed so much in this. Bravo to you all, kudos. We pray that this relationship continues, because the success of the institution will not be reached if the information, what the institution expects of the public, is not communicated effectively. And that can only be done with the help of the media. We show also much respect to you, and we acknowledge your contributions greatly.
All right, thank you so very much. Is Abubakar Iskandari Konte, Esquire, Director of Legal Regulations and Outreach. Thank you so very much.
Thank you too. Thank you too for hosting me.
All right, quickly, Abdul, when is your launch?
Yeah, the launch was supposed to be tomorrow, but rather unfortunately, because of there was no proper arrangement regarding the venue, so we postponed it to next week, Friday.
Where?
And I want to apologize for that, regarding the shift of the date and the time. And they will communicate the venue when it is available. Okay.
So with all this you're doing, do you have fund? Do you have support?
Of course, there is no fund, and we will have support. As it is for now, it is our monthly contribution that we are using. Of course, we are contributing 20,000 per month.
How challenging is that?
Yeah, it's really, really challenging. We are contributing 20,000 per month, and it is those money that we are using to go into those communities, sensitize those people, and then make sure that things works well. So that is why we've tried to partner with the Legal Aid Board and the ONS. We'll send letter to Ministry of Youth Affairs, the Youth Commission, because these are their programs. They are supposed to come in and then see how best we can tap into those young minds and bring them together.
Okay. What about the Ministry of Youth? Do you get in contact with them?
Of course, last month I went to the Deputy Minister of Youth Affairs, that is Mr. Luceni, and I have submitted a proposal to him, and since then he promised to call, but up to now I've not got any call from him. We are liaising also with the Youth Commission. I've sent several letters to the Youth Commissioner, but up to now there is nothing yet to come up with.
Richie, I'm keen to know, reaching out to especially the hard to reach get to youth, do you have a special technique you use to help cajole them?
Of course, the special technique is just about interacting with them, and then when we go there and we portray ourselves, we are the same, and then interact with them, talk to them, and that is the technique that we use to reach to them.
Okay. So what will be your closing notes as?
Of course, my closing note is, I just want to say thanks to the Honorable for Constituency 131. He has been very supportive, and also the Councillor, Honorable Sheriff, and the Councillor STK Simbo. And I also want to appeal to the ministries and agencies that are responsible of taking care of the youth of this country. Let them come on board and see how they can support us so that we can fight this battle together.
So what are you expecting to see at the launch?
Of course, the launch, we are expecting to see all those dignitaries that we've sent our letters to, for them to attend and see that they support the program.
All right. Thank you so very much, Abdul Rahman. Sise is the Director of New Life Community. He's been talking to us on their project Crime Prevention to Empowerment, and also I've been talking to Iskandari Esquire from the Water Regulation Agency. Well, that's how we're going to end the program for today. Thank you so very much for watching. I am Leonora Jawara, leaving you with our inspirational quote. African proverb, actually, it says, "It is not changing into a lion that is hard, it is getting the tail of a lion." Until tomorrow, have yourself a wonderful day.